Good morning. Good morning. You all hear me okay? How are we doing out there this Wednesday morning? Who's got something good to share with us?
Rainbows and sunshines.
Right. Rainbow and sunshine. All right. What's going good in your world, on a deal, in life? Martin.
I got 2 accepted last night, which really made my night. So that was good.
Awesome. Awesome. Anything in particular that you want to share about those deals?
The first one I had was that was a Fannie Mae one, which the first time I did a Fannie Mae one that was just straight through the computer and everything. It took some time to get accepted, but it was an interesting experience where they're like, where's all the other paperwork? And what do I have to sign? I'm like, we're not signing anything. Everything's done through online. You're getting emails. That's really all we can do right now.
Yeah. Anything to share about that online experience, or just, hey, if you're ever doing one of those, remember X, Y, or Z?
Just it's totally different from whatever you're used to doing. There's like, you don't go through dot loop. You don't do anything till after the fact. And it takes about almost a week for them to give you a decision. And especially if you have an anxious buyer, that can be a little, we're getting there type of deal.
Right. Anybody else want to share an experience around this? Online, maybe just anything regarding submitting online offers, online platforms. Anybody done something recently where you feel like it'd be a good experience? Share. All right. Well, who's got something going on one of their deals? Let's chat some real estate. Who took a training yesterday? Who learned something yesterday? Who got through something tough on one of their deals? Amber, you didn't have your coffee today, or do I gotta stimulate you with some questions?
I'm sick again, or worse than yesterday, and driving, so it's a little crazy.
A little crazy. Well, if we don't have anything, I've got my list of inspection stuff. We've been kind of diving deep on that recently. Why don't we go heating systems? That's kind of next on my list. Anybody have something recently come up on a heating system, or have to do a specialty inspection around a heating system, or anything you want to chat about around that topic? Deal die because of a heating system. You got quotes on a heating system. Everybody's alive this morning. Everybody knows how to unmute those mics. All right. Thanks, Steve. What do you got?
So I had a deal, condo in Springfield, and we didn't win, but we found out it came back to market because the heating system, which we noticed when we did our tour, the heat wasn't blowing hot air. And it got back in the market. We went to go tour it a second time to kind of check out the heating system, and it's like completely ancient. So I sent pictures, a video to my HVAC guy, and he's like, I've never seen anything like it. He's like, they're wicked old, and if they need to be replaced, you're talking $10,000 per unit, and there are 2 to 3 in each of these condo units. So I keep looking at that listing, and it's still on there because they want to give a like $4,000 or $5,000 concession rather than fixing it, and it's still in the market. 3 months later, it's still lingering. So obviously that deal's dying. For all the offers are dying on it because they refuse to fix this heating unit, and they're trying to price it around $5,000, and it's going to be about $20,000 from what I'm getting.
Anybody want to comment? What's the first thing that comes to mind for you guys when you hear about this deal? If you had a ready, willing, and able buyer, for this deal, what's the first thing that's coming to mind? Lauren?
Reaching out to the HOA, see what their awareness is, see if there's any special assessments being planned for the replacement of that, because it sounds like it's like building wide, not, unit specific. So it wouldn't be something that would be just for that unit, likely a special assessment for the entire community. See if they're aware of that.
So Steve, what is the situation on this one? It's providing heat to multiple units?
No, it's well, we don't really know the mainframe of it, but there's little units in each condo. It's a huge old building. We ended up putting an offer on that. We're working on the deal on the first floor and a better price, larger. So that kind of steered us to go look at the other units in there, and the heating's working perfectly fine in the one that we're under contract on right now. So I was just sharing that.
Are the unit owners individually responsible for their heating units?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, first thing that comes to my mind when we've got a buyer that's ready, willing, and able to buy something, we've got a structural mechanical issue, and we got a seller that's not willing to fix it, is rehab loan. Right? That's the first thing that comes to my mind. If you guys are, and it's not just for this particular scenario, but I want to make sure when we love this, but think rehab loan, right? I know the rate's going to be a little bit higher. If that's not going to work, sometimes we can get a contractor to do the work after we're through like inspections and mortgage commitment and get paid at closing. So there's definitely ways to work around this. Who else has got something regarding heating system? Hey, you know what? I was doing a deal and this happened with the heating system. Didn't realize that. What do we got? Florida doesn't know what heating systems are. I know you guys are out on this conversation. Margareta.
Good morning. I like how you said Florida doesn't know what the heating system is. It's pretty cold in Florida, though. I have friends I just talked to, and it's cold. Anyway, about heating systems. Sometimes they're covered under your home insurance. I mean, condos are a little bit different, but if there are issues, like a single family or a duplex situation, then because I had actually it's a rental property that for me, and it went under insurance. It got fixed under that, so it was a good thing.
Anybody else? Anybody done a conversion? My recommendation always when you've got somebody that says, I don't want to deal with oil. Don't show me any houses that have oil. The worst thing, in my opinion, that you can do is set up a search in the MLS that says, gas heat. One, you've got an issue with, did the agent get the fuel source right? Did they check off the box if it is gas? And then, even if it is oil, if there's gas on that street, or maybe through propane, we could do separate heating systems, do a conversion, do something like that. So, Jen.
I was just going to say, do they know what the cost would be for this particular situation with the furnace? Because maybe it's something that could, maybe they could just raise the purchase price if the buyer wants to finance it, rather than doing a rehab loan, because the interest rate would be higher.
Yeah, that's another way. I think this buyer is out on this property anyway, this particular, but just a good way to solve any problem like this is raise the purchase price, see if we can get it to appraise, and have the work completed through the transaction. So definitely.
Or even paid at closing. The seller could pay it at closing if they didn't have the money.
Yep. Contractor gets paid at closing. Seller can pay it. Buyer could even pay it, and then the seller's going to give them a closing cost credit, at the deal. Let's say the buyer is the one with the money, right? The buyer doesn't need their closing cost money right now. They need it at the closing. Right? So buyer could pay for it, and seller could do a closing cost credit. Now the buyer didn't have to bring those funds to closing. So we can get creative with this stuff. So just making sure that we're not letting deals die at inspections or failed systems. All right, last call on heating systems. Nobody else has got a share around this. Conversion. Anything weird happen with like an electric baseboard situation that's coming to mind that you might have had? Or you did a full replacement on a system and this came up? Jen.
So sorry, I can't answer your question, but I was just thinking about this transaction and how just how they came to the decision to back out, because I feel like so many buyers, when they make that decision, it's because they're like angry because they sometimes they want sellers to fix things, and if seller says no, then they get upset, and it's more about the principle. But it stinks because if they found the perfect house, I mean, every house is going to have something that needs to be done. So it's like it seems like a simple solution, even though it might be a lot. It's more of like where their mindset is, you know. So I just sometimes I don't know. I was just curious because that's when it's a wicked bummer. It's like the perfect house, and then you could fix this, but it's more of just how they're feeling about the seller. So I just didn't know if that had something to do with it, or if there's any way
Go
to
ahead,
save
Steve.
it.
Yeah, I think in this case, if there wasn't a better unit downstairs that had 200 more square feet for pretty much the same price, we would have definitely negotiated and got that deal done upstairs for sure. They really liked it. It was just there was another one, and it gave a little more space. The parking was better, and we were able to get a good price on it. But yeah, let's take that out of the equation. We were definitely going to go back and try to roll in that repair in there, not the 4 or 5 grand they wanted, but get a solid quote from my guy. He was going to come out within 2 weeks was the plan. Give us a solid quote. We were going to try to present that and say, hey, we got a quote if you want to get some to kind of see if you can get somebody with a better deal, but this is kind of the ballpark we're looking at. And we were going to try to squeeze them and, get that done.
The other thing I just kind of, as I'm just ruminating here on heating systems, I feel like that comes up on deals is no heat on the second floor or no heat in a room. So I don't know if anybody's got a story around that you might want to share. I mean, typically you're solving that problem by putting electric baseboards on the second floor, or you're doing a split system to heat that second floor. Those are some of the workarounds when you've got, missing heat in a room. Martin.
This is regarding the missing heat, but had a deal where there was no centralized heating system, but they had a huge, not fireplace, but wood stove. And the bank was able to use that as the main heating system source versus like, an oil, gas, or regular furnace type of deal. Just something that ever comes up, because this was considered a seasonal. It was insulated, everything else. It just didn't have that main heating source. And somehow they figured out that as long as that wood stove's in there, that was considered the main heating source.
Yeah, I feel like that can go either way. I feel like some lenders are not going to consider that wood stove as the main heating source. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I feel like that's come up as like, hey, that we're not going to count that. So I think it could be lender specific. Anybody have anything on seasonal properties that just don't have heat? Any issues with financing there, or any stories to tell around that topic? Right, so you'll have a cottage or something on a lake or a beachfront, or they're just only using it for 6 to 9 months, so there's no heat in it. I don't know if anybody's got a story around that to share. All right, well, let's move on. How about lead-based paint inspection? All right. Who's been through one? Who's got a story to share around that? I'll just kind of kick it off with these lead-based paint tests that you can get at like a Home Depot or a Lowe's, and why I would be cautious with that stuff. The way a real lead-based paint test done is done with a gun that you put up. I don't know if you guys can see me, but you've got a wall here, or let's say it's a door trim, right? And they're going to put this gun up to it, and it's going to shoot something, some sort of waves or something into that. And let's say there's 10 layers of paint on there. And let's say the first layer has lead-based paint. It's going to pick up that there is lead-based paint on that door trim. Okay. If you go to Home Depot and you get the swipe, all you did was you swiped that top layer. Right. And so if that top layer doesn't have lead-based paint, it's going to come back that you got no lead-based paint. But a true test, right? If there was a child that was to gnaw on that, they're going to get through the first layer of paint, no problem. Right. And they're going to get down to that bottom layer. So understanding how the actual testing is done is really important. So I don't love those tests. Who else got a story to share around lead-based paint? Jen.
I had an interesting situation years ago with lead-based paint. I had letters of compliance, but the company, I think it was Emerald maybe, they had said that yes, there was a letter of compliance, but it was so old, it's no longer in compliance. So it was like they needed to do it all over again, which was strange because it didn't have like an expiration date on it. You know, the letter.
Yeah, Adam, did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, so the letter of compliance, it's kind of like an inspection. It's literally taking a snapshot of the moment in time that test is done. So I just wanted to add, for anyone here that's thinking about getting into investing, you can, and this will help answer your question, Jen, you can go and take it. It used to be an 8-hour course. I took it like on a Saturday in Holyoke or something, where you can get your moderate risk de-leading certification, which allows you to do a fair amount of work to de-lead your own unit. Now, you can't hire yourself out. It's only for properties you own. But the thing with lead is it doesn't have to be removed. It can be covered or painted over. So let's say you have like lead paint on floors, or you have lead paint on door thresholds. You could just put carpet over that. If you have handrails that are lead, you can buy a special paint at I don't know, the one over in West Springfield used to be the only one that sold it, but it's like was $60 a gallon. It's got some kind of bitters in it. Ideally, if a kid bites it, it's, you know, it's bitter tasting and they're supposed to spit it out, whatever. But long story short, you can take a paintbrush and paint on this railing. And I'm laughing here because I remember doing that in one of our 3 families. Then we moved the tenant in, and of course they're moving their furniture and their beds and stuff, and it's chipping all of this paint. So literally a week after the inspection, we're technically out of compliance, right? So if that carpet ever gets pulled up, you're out of compliance. So unless the letter of compliance comes along with the report, and the report shows that things weren't covered and they were actually removed, like a lot of times you'll have these old doors that were just covered in lead paint. In that case, you'd probably just take the lead paint door out and replace it with a new door. So the lead's gone. Same thing with windows, right? A lot of times we'll just literally take the lead window out, put a new vinyl replacement window in, lead's gone. So it kind of depends. But if they were covering stuff and painting stuff, you're probably out of compliance if the property's been turned over, if it's been a while. The other problem with the lead-based paint is because it's a topical solution. When they go to shoot it with a gun, that lead gun that Steven's talking about, it's still going to show that there's lead. So it's good to keep those reports. They're really lengthy and hard to read, but it's going to show that was covered with, the bitter paint, and that'll help you, have to not do that again. The other thing I'll mention is whatever the rule is that, if you go buy a unit, right, a 3-family that does not have, or a 2-family, anything that's getting rented, and you're going to be a landlord, and they have children under 6, and there's no letter of compliance, your buyer is buying that property out of compliance from day one, and the law forces you to put these people up in a hotel. Now, the reality is no one's going to really say anything, but I just want you guys to make sure your buyer's aware. That's the reality, is they're out of compliance from day one. If they were to report you, you'd have to put them up in a hotel, go through the whole rigmarole of getting it de-leaded, and put them back in the unit. So there's a lot of risk when you're buying properties that do not have those certificates of compliance. Now, if you're going to buy it and live in the unit, well, it doesn't matter. It's yourself. You're not going to report yourself. But if you're planning on renting them, and just because the application doesn't say that they currently have children under 6, obviously someone could move in, someone could get pregnant, and now all of a sudden you've got a issue. So just keep that in mind.
Lots to discuss there. Anybody have any questions? Anybody have anything to add? Oh, hold on. My screen just got messed up. Lori. Lori, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't unmute.
There you go.
I had a listing in New Britain, and sorry, I'm like walking. I'm out of breath. But the house had lead paint poisoning. The children got lead paint poisoned. They were neglected, sadly, and it had to be reported. So, now there's a report, documents I had to gather, and then when I filled out the lead paint form with the seller, we had to say yes. There was lead paint. There is lead paint. So I was concerned about the financing because I'm like, okay, we're going to disclose all this. Everybody's going to purchase this house knowing that there's lead paint poisoning here and there's lead paint present. And it was fine for FHA. We actually closed with an FHA offer. I checked everything first because I didn't want to entertain offers that were government backed, thinking this could be an issue for an FHA lender underwriting. And it actually wasn't. I was shocked. As long as it was disclosed and the buyer signed everything, we were able to close on the property without a problem.
Good share. Good share. Anything else? Just details around the hazards, the treatment. I know people get nervous around, children and them actually getting lead poisoning. Anything that you can remember, Lori, specifically around that stuff, or?
Not really. I know that I think because what the backstory was, it was a girl I knew. Her mother had passed away, left her in charge of the estate. Her sister, kind of out there, would leave the kids in the mom's house after she passed. She kind of squatted there, and these poor children were just neglected. So I believe DSS got involved, and it was really just a sad situation because in most cases people are watching their children. They're not letting them chew on walls. And I mean, I feel like you got to chew quite a bit to get sick. So that's why, they had to go to the hospital. It was reported to the health department. It was like a whole thing about it. So I had all these papers, that I uploaded with the lead paint disclosure. And I just, was straight out with it. But I just really was worried about, here's your FHA underwriter looking at, there was lead paint here. I thought there'd be a problem, but I checked and I was shocked. It was fine as long as it was disclosed. And it wasn't going to be a rental. It wasn't a multifamily. It was a single family. So I don't know if, like what Adam said, if it was a multifamily, they were going to live on one floor and rent to the other. Would that be a problem? I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things to think about too when you're doing this is I'll see investors that are like, oh, well, I'll just make sure I don't rent to children two people with children under the age of 6. So that's a discriminatory practice. So you can't do that. I'm taking over the property. I don't need to worry about lead-based paint because there is nobody in the property right now that has children under the age of 6. And, don't worry. What I'll do is if one of these tenants moves out, I'll clean up the unit. I'll get a lead certificate for just that unit, which you can do. So you can get lead certificates just for units. If you got a 3-family, you could get one just for the second floor. You'd have to make sure that the second floor is lead certified and then any common areas. But here's the problem with that, where you're waiting for that tenant to move out. What if that tenant right now that has no children under the age of 6 watches their nephew, every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday? The nephew's 4 years old. And the nephew's coming over there every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday for a couple of years. And that nephew comes down with lead poisoning. That's on you, the owner. Right? So you really got to be careful with this stuff. If you're working with investors, with regards to lead-based paint, I was always highly critical of, like, you do not want to own that property without lead certificates. Period. End of story. So I don't know if anybody else has any shares around that part of the business as far as getting the certs and getting things certified. Jen.
So just something that was on my mind. So if a property tests positive, but you have it put into compliance or have it removed or whatever, it's my understanding that people have to always say that there is lead paint because you never know if there's more, even if it's brought to compliance.
Well, you're going to, there's it's kind of like what Adam was saying before. There is treatment and then there's abatement. Abatement is we are getting rid of it. Treatment is it's there, but we've covered it. If it was on the floor, we put a carpet down. If it was on the molding, we painted it with that special paint, right? So we've got it treated, right? So those are two things. So if you full abatement, then you would not need to say that there's lead-based paint. But most people aren't doing full abatement. Most people are doing some sort of a treatment. So yes, you're still going to say, hey, it's there, but we've treated it, and you're going to make those indications on the lead-based paint disclosures when you're filling those things out. So that's a good point. Steve.
What's a ballpark? You're talking remedial versus abatement. Obviously the size of the home matters, but is there like a square footage per, or I think I did some research before and it was like, it could be like $10,000+ to de-lead a house.
Yeah, it really is all going to depend. So I've done this on multiple properties. So I did what Adam's talking about. I took that weekend warrior course, got my lead certificate so I could do moderate risk de-leading. And I've de-leaded numerous properties. And they're all over the board. I mean, one of them, we had like 2 windows. That's it. In the entire place, 2 windows had lead-based paint on them. So we just took them out, put vinyls in. I don't know what it cost, $500 a window. Or it was probably like, at the time, it was probably like $250 a window, right? That's it. We're done. Other ones, I had it everywhere, every door, every window, every molding. So yeah, it's really going to be specific to each property on how much lead there is and what remediation strategy you're going to take. But kind of like Adam said earlier, almost always treatment's going to be the case. The times where you'll see a full abatement is windows and doors, right? I think that's the easiest. A lot of times you've got these old wooden windows anyway, might as well replace them with vinyl. And then, with the doors, I don't even think they're going to allow you to use the encapsulating paint because the problem is with those paints, it can't be a movable surface. I think that was one of the laws, right? When you're learning how to get these certificates is, so if you're putting the paint on there and then it's rubbing, that paint is coming off. So they're not going to allow it. You can't paint a window. You can't paint a door. So anything that's going to be movable surface, you've got to do full abatement on it. Lauren.
I just wanted to add that I've never had a property where they chose to do lead-based paint testing that it did not come back positive in Massachusetts. So we have a lot of older homes, and I think having those conversations and how deep those testing actually go is important with your clients as well. So I just wanted to put it out there. I've probably had 6-7 clients do them, and they've all come back with positives.
Yeah, look, it was the go-to paint of its time. It was supposed to hold up longer and cover better and yada yada. I don't know what else the qualities of that particular paint were, but if you wanted to paint it and kind of set it and forget it, lead-based paint was the way to go apparently back in the day. So yeah, it's in a lot of stuff. So Lauren, let's walk us through. I've actually never had a client do it. I've done obviously a lot of my own, but I've never had a client do it mid-transaction. Did they do it at the same time as the home inspection? Did they do it after the home inspection? Was it a combination of? Let's just kind of talk through that.
Majority of the time it was done same time as the home inspection. They knew that they wanted to do it, so we were able to get somebody there same time. I think twice it was done afterwards when they just realized kind of like a lot of stuff is going on when the houses were like really old, like early 1900s. And Yeah, but usually try to align them same time. Have to inform your clients that it's not the inspector. Like we have to find an additional person to come do them. So they're always pretty smooth. They don't really take too long. They kind of just did their own thing and then left while we were there during the inspection. So
What, did your clients end up buying all of these?
a majority of them. Yeah.
So just
actually.
remember, you know, when you do these, if that buyer then backs out, now if you were the listing agent on that property and lead was discovered, now you've got to refill out your lead disclosure forms because now you need to state that lead paint, has been determined to be in the property, or you're going to say no, it hasn't. You know, if the inspection came back that way.
Yeah, and I think when I've had it all over the board too, on who handled taking care of them, right? So some of them were as is. We knew they just wanted to know because there were multifamilies going in so that they had the information. We had other ones where I actually represented the seller and somebody came in and did it. And the sellers were like, you know, no, we're not taking this on. We know that our house is, you know, this old, and the buyers still bought it at that point without having anything done. I've had it's split between the two, and I've had the sellers just totally take care of it because it was things like just windows, so they remediated them.
Couple other things. This topic is going to be a full playbook. I'm just making a note now. There's so much to know about this lead-based paint stuff, but I don't know. Can anybody speak to the tax credits? Do those still exist for de-leading a property? Anybody know if those still exist? Anybody confirm that? So it's something to look into. When I did my properties, I would say 75% of the work that I did, I got a tax credit for, dollar for dollar. So let's say I spent, I forget what it was. I think it was like maybe $1,500 per unit. Kind of sounds like the number that's kicking around in my head. I don't know if anybody remembers what the number used to be at least. Does 1,500 sound right? So let's say I spent on a 3-family, I spent $6,000 for all brand new windows, right? And now I get a $4,500 tax credit back. So it really cost me $1,500 and I just upgraded my property. I got all vinyl replacement windows now. Makes my property worth significantly more, right? So it's not always like the end of the world to have to, you know, test and then do the work. Go ahead, Amber.
I just looked on the Mass website. It says for letters of compliance, you get a tax credit up to $3,000. For letters of interim control is now up to $1,000. And that increased tax credit went into effect on January 1st of 23. So who knows if another one will be coming, but that's what it says on the Mass website, the governor.
Okay, so yeah, I think it was 1,500 and they've upped it to 3,000. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, for total de-leading and getting the letter of compliance, it's 3,000, and then the letter of interim control is now up to 1,000. So I'm assuming it was like maybe 500.
Cool. Somebody put their hand up. I can't see it though.
It was me. I put it back down.
Okay.
I was just gonna
Okay.
say that I remember that coming into play now that I heard it, that knowing that they were getting the credit helped make the decision to do it because it offset it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think on one of my properties, I think it even broke even. What I paid for my windows, I got the tax credit back. So I basically got free windows. Jen.
I was just going to say, if somebody does get the lead paint tested, but really doesn't plan on doing anything, like renting it out or remediating it, then if they purchase the home, then they have to now select that it has lead-based paint for future buyers. So I feel like it certainly makes sense if you're renting it out, but you know, especially like what we were talking about before, it's like, okay, it's in compliance now, but then what about later? So then a buyer might want to buy it. It says, yes, I had it in compliance, but now it's out of compliance. So now the seller has to pay more potentially. You know what I mean?
Yep. I mean, the other thing that when Lauren was talking about her deal, like if you've got a buyer that wants to do lead on a multi, they do the lead-based paint inspection. And it comes back positive, and then the buyer backs out because they don't want to deal with that. Now you've got a seller that's got to take action. They are now aware that they've got lead-based paint in their property and they've got to remediate it. Right. And this could be really costly for a seller. This could mean, depending on the types of remediation that need to be done, putting the current tenants up into a hotel while the work is done. Because some of the work can't be done with people living in it. Right. If you were just going to put carpets down and cover a lead-based paint floor, you could do that without moving everybody out. But there are certain remediation techniques that might need to be done for certain things. Like I can't remember exactly, but potentially replacing those windows, because taking the window in and out could create some lead-based paint dust. Might not be able to be done with people living in it. So, Lauren.
Kind of final thought here. A lot of my transactions that we did this were pre-COVID when properties were sitting a long time and you were the only buyer coming in and things like that. So definitely taking into consideration as well, sellers needed to sell and they didn't have, multiple buyers and they were sitting for a long time, and negotiations were a little bit more open in some of the situations that I dealt with.
Yeah, there's a lot. This is, worthy of a full playbook, kind of going through all the scenarios. So definitely taking some notes as we've been diving deep here, that we've got to do some probably longer videos or longer guides on all the different things that you need to educate yourself with around the lead-based paint, how to handle it on your transactions. So this was a great chat today. Appreciate you guys. We got talkative about halfway through, which is awesome. So go have yourselves a great Wednesday. Come back tomorrow inspired and ready to do it again. All right. Oh, we didn't do trainings. I'll quickly, let's see here. What do we got? Why is that not sharing my, move it over there. Here we go. So we've got the investor agent playbook today. We've got YouTube and new construction. You got long-term nurture, short sales, share of sales, REO listings, what you need to know, and agent to investor mastermind. So a couple of different things that could spark some interest for you guys. So go learn something, bring it back to this call. Have a great Wednesday. Take care.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.